lovely people, welcome to GAILIFY Gailify. You are warmly welcome. If today's the first time, you are warmly welcome to Gailify. And to all of you who keep visiting Gailify, thank you so much for the support. Kindly like, subscribe and share. We're still quite low on our subscription level, so kindly subscribe and share. Comment in the comment section as well, because I like to get interactive with all of you. So as you can see in the background, I have started my Christmas celebration. Everybody is sort of preparing for Christmas in a way, and yeah, so I've got my own little Christmas. I'm not very good with, you know, hanging lights, so I've just done anything. So it's quite haphazard, but yeah. If you watched the episode I did about sickness leave, I did say that I was going to do something about maternity, because that is a whole big topic on its own. So today we're going to do the maternity leave. Actually, I was hoping to do maternity leave and maternity pay in this video, but guys, there's so much about both sections that it would make the video too long, and I know you guys don't like a video to be too long, so I would just talk about the maternity leave on its own in this video, and then in the next video I will talk about the pay. So that's what we're going to talk about today, so let's get on with it. So let's just clear the air first with these points. If you are working, be it the NHS or in a different company, and you're pregnant, you are entitled to several rights and entitlements, you know, especially to protect you while you're pregnant. So number one is you're entitled to paid time off for your antenatal appointment. And it's not just for, you know, where you go and the midwife checks to make sure baby's all right. I mean, that's typically what an antenatal session will be about. But then if you have to attend some classes, if it has been prescribed by a midwife or a doctor, then you are entitled for paid leave to attend those sessions. You are entitled to maternity leave, and there is a statutory one that everybody's entitled to, no matter what your employer says. You're allowed a certain amount of maternity leave, and I'll get into that a bit later. You are entitled to some form of maternity pay or maternity allowance, and you have the right to protection against unfair treatment. So if you feel at any point that you're being discriminated against because you're pregnant, you can always raise that, and that has to be addressed. So this is just a few tips that, you know, for you out there if you are pregnant and you're working. So what will make you eligible for maternity leave at your workplace? So the thing is, as long as you're classed as an employee at that workplace, you're entitled to 52 weeks of maternity leave, which is, you know, a year. And this is quite different from maternity pay. I know when people hear maternity, all they hear about is leave and pay being the same thing. But the maternity leave and the maternity pay are two separate things. If you have been employed and if you're classed as an employee, which obviously you need to find out if you're not sure that, because some companies will, in the contract, they will not class you as an employee. They will, you know, class you as a worker or as a contractor. So if you're classed as an employee, then you're entitled to 52 weeks of maternity leave, which of course you can decide to return earlier than the 52 weeks, but then that is there for you. It doesn't matter how long you've worked with your company. It doesn't matter at the stage of your pregnancy when you you know, got to them. The caveat is, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself, you have to inform your employer. You have to be able to tell them at least 15 weeks to your due date. So they have to know that is about 4 months before you're delivering. So, you know, obviously, actually, after that time, you wouldn't be looking at getting into a new job because you might be, you know, quite frail anyways. So normally people will already be employed by that time, and you can let your employer know at least 15 weeks before your due date so that they can make that arrangement for you. But now, basic facts about the maternity leave. So the statutory maternity leave is 52 weeks, and it's divided into two. We have the first 26 weeks as the ordinary leave, and then the second 26 weeks is the additional leave. So a lot of people will choose to go for 26 weeks, which is 6 months, and then you know, return after 6 months. But it depends on you, really. You can always return whenever you want to, and you know, the fact that you've already discussed with your manager that you want to return on this day doesn't mean it's set in stone. You can always change it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. If in your circumstance you're not allowed to have leave because of one or two reasons, then you're permitted to have a mandatory 2 weeks maternity leave from the time that you had your child, like the day after, starting from the day after you had your baby, or 4 weeks if you are a factory worker. So 2 weeks in all other kinds of jobs, and 4 weeks if you're a factory worker. It says a mandatory one. It's a forced maternity leave that you need to take, whether you like it or not, or whether your employer likes it or not. When you are pregnant, you're not mandated to tell your employer about it until the 15th week to your due date, because during that time you need to discuss when you want to start your maternity leave, how long you want to stay, and stuff like that. And it's good for your employer to know, so that they can give you all of those leaves for antenatal and everything that you need. And if you get sick and your sickness is related to pregnancy, they need to know. Obviously, if they're not aware that you're pregnant, then how are they going to give you all of that benefit? So I know you might not want to tell your employer, but then if they know, it helps to give you a couple of benefits. Actually, if you decide with your manager or your employer the time that you want to go for your maternity leave, it is not set in stone. You can always alter it around by giving a 28 days notice period, as long as it's not after 28 days to the beginning of to your due date. You can always change that those days of when you want to go. I wanted to throw in there that if you have any pregnancy related sickness and it's within the last 4 weeks before your due date, then you would automatically start your maternity leave. So I know one of my colleagues at work, she tried her possible best to not fall ill within that 1 month, because she did not want to start her maternity leave earlier than the planned date, because she knew obviously she would have to return earlier. So she pushed herself through every day she came to work, make sure within that last month before the date started she was not ill. But obviously, if you can't always prevent these things. If you're ill, you need to take that time off, and who knows, you might give birth in that time. And then another thing is, you may have decided with your manager that you want to go for maternity leave on this day or that day, but then the baby might say, no, I want to come now. So in that case, whenever you have your child, from the day after that, your maternity leave starts. So no matter what you've discussed earlier, the baby has the final say in the end. Immediately your employer knows that you're pregnant, they are supposed to carry out a risk assessment. This is where they will sort of put into consideration with your current situation and with the wherever you're working, the risks available, if it's heavy lifting or sitting or standing for too long, where you haven't got enough breaks to make sure you're relaxed or stretching or exercising a little bit, or if there are toxins, or if your working hours are too long. But they've got their own sort of guidelines as to at which point it is classed as a risk to you. But then obviously their word is not the final say. If you think you're at risk but your manager didn't pick up on that, you can always go to your health and safety team, and the outcome will be, it's either they will just alter some of the hours, they will change your role, let you do something else within that time, or they might employ you, deploy you in a different part of the company or your workplace where the work is less stressful, where you don't have to stand for too long or sit for too long, where you're not lifting heavily, where you're not exposed to those toxins. If they feel like no matter what they do, you will still be at risk in that workplace environment, then they have the right to suspend you. It will be a suspension on full payment. And the earliest time you can go on leave is 11 weeks before your baby is born. So you can discuss with your manager that you want to leave. That would be like nearly 3 months before your baby is born. Don't just look at what other people are doing, what your colleagues are doing. Everybody's pregnancy is different. So just assess your own self and how you and your baby are going to cope with this whole thing. And if you feel you need to leave earlier, definitely go earlier. Now, after your baby is born, obviously your maternity leave starts. You can always notify your manager if you think you want to return to work earlier than the planned date, but you have to give them 8 weeks notice period. So if you feel you want to, maybe you took your maternity leave in January and you're due back in maybe the end of December, but then you feel like you want to return in October, you need to make sure 8 weeks before the day you want to start, your manager is aware. Do give them that notice period that, you know, you want to do this, so that they can sort out your return. And also it helps with organizing the pay, because if you're entitled to maternity pay, then a lot of calculations have to go in, and you know, payroll has to be made aware that you're returning earlier and blah blah blah. So you need to make your manager or your employer aware in lots of time. And you have the opportunity to share your leave. So if your partner or your husband is eligible, you will be able to share your maternity leave. So it will be a parental leave sort of thing. You'll be able to share your parental leave with them. But then you would have to. I haven't really done a lot of research in that category, but you can only start that 2 weeks after you have had your baby. So then you would have had a lot of time to think about with you and your partner if you want to split your parental leave amongst the two of you, as well as the pay, or if one person will just take it in full. So you can share the 50 weeks left, because you're entitled to 52 weeks, as I said earlier, which is a year. So the 50 weeks left, you can always discuss what you want to do with it. But you have to really consult your employer to see the policies in your own workplace about this sort of shared parental leave. But it is there that you can explore. Now, when it's time for you to return and you feel like you want to extend your maternity leave after the 1 year, in the statutory sort of way, you're not allowed to go beyond the year. But then if your company permits, they can give you that extra, you know, week or two, a couple of weeks or a month for you to stay home and, you know, recuperate a bit more. But then that will be in the terms of you and your company, and it will not be classed as maternity leave anymore. So some of the rights, some of the benefits that you might get in maternity leave may not be applied. You may not get maternity pay. So you have to discuss with your employer if within that time where you're not working, after your maternity leave expires, what is the arrangement? But because that will be an internal thing that you need to discuss with your employer or your company. Special circumstances, if you're a surrogate mother, which is if the baby you're carrying is not your own, you're just housing the baby and you're helping the baby grow, because the actual mother is not able to grow this baby in their own body. That's what we term as surrogate. You're not entitled to maternity leave, because obviously when you give birth to this baby, the baby is going to go back to the original mother. But then you're entitled to another kind of leave, which is the statutory adoption leave and pay. So you need to explore that. If you're self-employed, there's a way to go about it. If you're working as an agency worker, there's a way to go about it as well. But you need to do your research. There's a lot of information out there. Most of the information I'm bringing to you guys is from the gov.uk website anyways. Because of the special circumstances of these class of people, it will be really beneficial to have a chat with your trade union if you've got one, and also with your employer to see what the policies are. So yeah, guys, this is what I wanted to talk to you guys with regards to maternity leave. Obviously, I didn't say anything about the pay, because that is a whole different topic on its own. I will do another video about maternity pay. And I hope this helped somebody. If it did, kindly drop a comment in the comment section, smash the subscribe button and like this video. Share it to somebody, a pregnant lady that you know who will benefit from this information. And I will see you guys again next time. Until then, be good, be loving, and enjoy life. Bye bye.